close your eyes for a moment, even if only in your mind, and let what I am about to say fall not upon your ears, but upon the deep waters of your being. For what I bring you tonight is not information, it is remembrance. You already know what I am about to say. You have always known it. It has been waiting beneath the surface of your daily thinking, patient, silent, undisturbed by your doubts, unmoved by your circumstances, simply waiting for the moment you would turn inward and listen. Tonight is that moment, and what you are about to remember will change, quietly and permanently, the way money moves through your life, not because of anything you will do, but because of what you will, from this moment forward, dare to assume. Let me tell you first what money is not. Money is not a reward for labor. Money is not the fruit of striving. Money is not something the world hands to you when it judges you worthy. This is the great lie that has kept humanity chained to anxiety, to overtime, to the endless chase of a horizon that recedes as fast as it is approached. You have been told that wealth is earned in the sweat of the brow, and so you have sweated, and still the abundance you sought remained just out of reach, always one step ahead, always tomorrow's promise. But I tell you now, and I tell you with the calm certainty of one who has proven it beyond all doubt, money is not earned. Money is assumed. Money is a state of consciousness before it is ever a state of the bank account. The outer flow of wealth is nothing but the shadow cast by an inner conviction, and shadows do not create themselves. They can only follow the substance that casts them. You have been chasing shadows, my friend, trying to rearrange them with your hands, when all along the sun that casts them was your own imagination, waiting for you to turn it toward the light of a new assumption. Consciousness is the only reality. Sit with that sentence. Do not rush past it as though it were merely poetic. It is not poetic. It is architectural. It is the single load-bearing wall upon which everything else I will say to you depends. There is no world out there independent of the one perceiving it. There is no economy, no market, no scarcity, no abundance that exists apart from the consciousness that beholds it and, in beholding it, creates it. What you call the world is simply consciousness objectified, the inner made outer, the invisible made visible, the assumption made fact. This is not mysticism for its own sake. This is the mechanics of creation itself, as old as the first words ever spoken over the face of the deep. Let there be light. That was not a historical event that happened once, long ago, to someone else. That is happening now, in you, every single moment, whether you know it or not. Every assumption you entertain is a let there be, spoken silently into the substance of your own consciousness. And consciousness, being the one and only creative power, cannot help but obey. You do not get what you want. Let that land fully, because it is the sentence that shatters every self-help formula you have ever been handed. You do not get what you want. You get what you assume to be true. Wanting is a confession of lack. Wanting keeps the object of desire forever at a distance, because to want is to affirm, again and again, I do not have. And consciousness, hearing this repeated affirmation, faithfully reproduces more of the very lack you are broadcasting. This is why so many who chase money never catch it. They are not creating from possession, they are creating from absence, and absence can only multiply itself. The moment you stop wanting money and instead assume that you already possess it, not pretend, not hope, not wish, but assume, quietly and completely, the way you assume the ground will hold you when you take a step. In that very moment, the entire structure of your experience begins, invisibly at first, to rearrange itself around this new inner fact. Nothing changes on the outside until something has already changed on the inside. This is the law. It has never once been broken, and it never will be. because it is not a law imposed upon consciousness. It is the very nature of consciousness itself. Now hear this, because it is the doorway through which every true change of fortune must pass. Creation is already finished. There is nothing left to create. Every possible version of your life, every state of poverty and every state of abundance, every failure and every triumph, already exists, complete and eternal, within the infinite structure of consciousness. You are not here to create wealth. Wealth already exists as a finished state, waiting, exactly as poverty exists as a finished state, waiting. You are not a creator in the sense of building something from nothing. You are a chooser. You are a mover between rooms that already exist. This is the secret hidden within the old teaching, that in the Father's house are many mansions. Those mansions are not future constructions. They are present realities, fully furnished, fully finished, and your only task, your entire task, is to walk in consciousness out of the room you have been living in and into the room you desire. The poor man's room and the rich man's room exist simultaneously, right now, in the eternal now of consciousness. You are not waiting for wealth to be built. You are waiting for yourself to stop insisting on living in the room called lack. And how does one move between rooms? Not by struggle, not by working harder at the door of the room you are already in, pounding against its walls hoping they will yield. You move between rooms by a change of state. This is the only change there ever is. Not a change of circumstance, not a change of job, not a change of luck, a change of state. Your state is simply the sum of the assumptions you inhabit, the feelings you consider natural to you, the identity you have quietly agreed to wear. Change the state, and the room changes with it, because the room was never external to begin with. The room is the objectified form of the state. This is why two people can stand in what looks like the same external circumstance, the same job, the same bank balance, the same beginnings, and one will rise into abundance while the other sinks deeper into want. They are not in the same room at all, though it appears so to the physical eye. One is inwardly occupying the state of the wealthy man, already feeling the ease, the certainty, the quiet confidence of one for whom money is simply not a problem. The other is inwardly occupying the state of the struggling man, feeling the tightness, the fear, the scarcity, even while smiling outwardly. The outer world has no choice but to conform, eventually and precisely, to the inner state each of them is faithfully sustaining. The world is not indifferent. The world is obedient. It obeys consciousness the way water obeys the shape of its container. Change the container, and the water, the very substance of your circumstances, must take the new shape. It cannot refuse. This is why I say to you now, and I say it not as motivation, but as sober metaphysical fact, you are already the one you seek to be. Somewhere within the infinite rooms of your own consciousness, the version of you who possesses ease, who possesses flow, who possesses more money than 100 lifetimes could spend, already exists, breathing, complete, whole, untroubled. You are not manufacturing this person from nothing. You are remembering them. You are turning, in the dark house of your own mind, down a hallway you have simply forgotten to walk, toward a door that has been open this entire time. The prodigal son did not create his father's house by his return. The house was always there, always his, always waiting. His only movement was a movement of decision, a turning of the self, an arising and a going. I will arise and go, not I will build, not I will earn, but I will arise and go, as though the going were simply a shift in direction of an already existing journey. This is the whole of manifestation. Arising is a change of state. Going is the sustaining of that new state until the outer world, which cannot help but mirror consciousness, presents you with the very fields, the very robe, the very ring your father already possessed and always intended for you. Now let me speak to you about the state you must release, because this is where so many sincere souls falter, not in failing to imagine the new state, but in failing to let go of the old one. You cannot serve two states at once. This is not poetic language. It is structural law. Consciousness, at any given moment, occupies one state as home. You may visit other states in fleeting thought, but you live somewhere, and that residence, that state you return to as normal, as just how things are for me, is the one whose fruit you will inevitably reap. If you say, in the same breath, I am wealthy, and then walk away worrying about the bill on the counter, you have not changed your address. You have merely stood at the wealthy man's door, glanced inside, and returned to your familiar room, the room called lack, the room you call home, because you have lived there so long, you mistake its walls for the boundaries of reality itself. The old state must be released, not fought, not resisted, not even analyzed too closely. For what you resist, you strengthen through attention. It must simply be left, the way one leaves a house one no longer lives in, without struggle, without violence, simply by turning one's back on it and walking, in feeling, toward the new address. This is the meaning hidden in the ancient instruction, to let the dead bury their dead. Let the old man, the man of lack, the man of struggle, the man who checks his balance with dread, the man who apologizes for wanting more, let him be buried. He is not you. He was only ever a state you occupied, a costume worn so long you forgot it was not your skin. You do not need to kill him with effort. You need only stop attending him, stop feeding him with your attention, stop rehearsing his story to yourself and to others. Every time you tell the old story, money has always been hard for me. I've never been good with finances. People like me don't get rich. You are not describing your life. You are legislating it. You are standing before the throne of your own consciousness and signing, again, the old decree. Stop signing it. Let the dead bury the dead. Turn, instead, toward the state of the wish fulfilled and take up residence there so completely that the old house becomes, quite simply, uninhabitable to you, not because you fought your way out, but because you no longer fit the door. Now I will give you the mechanism, simple, ancient, and absolutely reliable, by which this shift is accomplished. It is not complicated. It has never been complicated. Complication is the ego's way of avoiding the terrifying simplicity of true power. Here it is. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the thought, the feeling. Thought is architecture. Feeling is the mortar that makes it permanent. You can think, I am wealthy, 1,000 times a day, and produce nothing if the thought is dry, mechanical, unfelt. But assume, even once, with the full weight of conviction, feel the calm, unhurried, quiet confidence of a person for whom money is simply not a source of tension. Feel the ease in your shoulders that a wealthy man carries without even noticing it. Feel the settled certainty in your chest when you imagine reaching for your wallet and knowing, without a flicker of doubt, that there is more than enough. Assume this feeling, dwell in it, breathe in it, fall asleep in it, and you have done more in that single act than 1,000 days of striving could accomplish. Feeling is the secret. Not the secret in the sense of a hidden trick, but the secret in the sense of that which lies beneath and gives birth to everything visible. The outer fact is only the crystallization of an inner feeling held long enough, believed deeply enough, that consciousness, unable to do otherwise, brings it forth into form. I want to give you now the one sentence, the single assumption, that you are to carry with you, to speak inwardly, to feel outwardly, to let color every thought you have about money from this day forward. It is not a wish, it is not a request, it is a declaration of a fact, already established in the only reality that matters, the reality of your own consciousness. Here it is. Speak it not as a hope, but as one who is stating the obvious. Money flows to me easily, endlessly, and without effort, because it is who I am. Say it slowly. Say it as though describing your own hand, your own breath, something so self-evidently yours that arguing about it would be absurd. Money flows to me easily, endlessly, and without effort, because it is who I am. Notice that it does not say, I will have money. It does not defer itself into some future that never arrives, because the future, chaste, only recedes. The future is only ever a mirror, and a mirror does not initiate, it reflects. It says flows, present tense, because in consciousness there is no other tense that matters. It says because it is who I am, because you are not asking the universe for a favor, you are stating your identity, and identity is the truest form of assumption there is. You are not trying to attract money. You are declaring what you already are, and the flowing of money is simply the inevitable evidence of that declaration, following it the way daylight follows the sunrise, not caused by effort, but by nature. Speak this sentence daily, yes, but do not merely speak it. Inhabit it. Say it in the morning, before the world has had the chance to hand you its evidence of scarcity, so that your first allegiance of the day belongs to your assumption and not to appearances. Say it in the stillness before sleep, when the analytical mind has finally quieted, and the deeper mind, the mind that actually shapes your reality, lies open and receptive, ready to accept whatever state you hand it as the final impression of the day. This is not superstition. This is understanding how the instrument of your own consciousness works, the way an engineer understands the instrument of a bridge. You would not blame the bridge for collapsing under a weight it was never designed to hold. You would examine the design. Examine now the design of your own inner life, and stop being surprised when a mind fed daily on lack produces daily lack. Feed it, instead, this one sentence, this one unshakable assumption, until it becomes not something you say, but something you simply are. The way you do not have to remind yourself to be a human being. You simply are one, without argument, without daily affirmation, without doubt. Understand, too, that the world will not change first. It cannot. It is not permitted to, by the very structure of reality itself. The outer is always and only a reflection, and a reflection cannot move before the one standing before the mirror moves. You have perhaps spent years waiting for the outer world to shift, for the raise, for the opportunity, for the lucky break, before you would finally feel secure, finally feel abundant, finally allow yourself to relax into the feeling of wealth. This is backwards, and it is precisely why it has not worked. You were waiting for the reflection to move first, so that you could then adjust your face to match it. But a mirror has never once initiated a movement. Reverse the order. Assume the feeling first, the security, the ease, the quiet, unshakable knowing that you are provided for, and watch, without straining to watch, as circumstances rearrange themselves, sometimes so quietly you will not even be able to trace the mechanism, only the result. Doors that seemed sealed will simply be found open. People who seemed unwilling will simply become willing. Opportunities that seemed non-existent will simply appear, as though they had been walking toward you the entire time, waiting only for you to stop walking away from them in your own mind. There is a further mystery here that must be spoken plainly, because so many stumble over it. The past has no reality unless you occupy it. You have a financial history. Perhaps it is a history of loss, of struggle, of near misses, and hard lessons. I tell you now that this history holds no power over your future, except the power you continue, moment by moment, to grant it by dwelling there in thought. The past is not a fixed rail upon which your future must run. The past is simply another room in the house of consciousness, and if you insist on standing in that room, narrating its furniture to yourself and to anyone who will listen, you will continue to experience its conditions, not because the past is powerful, but because you have not yet left it. The moment you stop occupying it, stop telling its story, stop feeling its old feelings, stop treating it as evidence of what is possible for you, it loses every shred of its claim on you. It becomes exactly what it always was in truth, a state you are no longer in, unless you choose, moment by moment, to walk back into it. Nothing outside of your present occupied state has the power to determine your future. Nothing. Not your bank statement, not your family's history with money, not the economy, not your age, not your education, not one single fact you could list as evidence against yourself. All of it is only a report on a state you have already left. If you will simply stop walking back into that old room to check that it is still there. This is why assumption, sustained, always hardens into fact. It is not a hope that sometimes works. It is a law that always works. The way water always seeks its level. The way heat always moves toward cold. The only variable is not whether the law works, but whether you have truly, fully, without secret reservation, made the assumption. Most people do not fail because the law fails them. They fail because they only half assume. They speak the words of wealth while still, in some quiet, unwatched corner of the mind, believing in lack, still flinching at the bill, still feeling that old tightening in the chest when money is mentioned. That flinch, that tightening, is the true assumption being made in that moment, and it will always outvote the words spoken without feeling. This is why I said feeling is the secret, and I say it again now, with even more weight. You cannot lie to your own consciousness with words alone. It responds only to what is truly felt as real. So do not merely recite the sentence. Become the kind of being for whom the sentence requires no effort to believe, because it has simply become the quiet, unremarkable truth of who you are. Consider, for a moment, how effortlessly you already believe certain things about yourself that once, perhaps, you had to be convinced of. You do not struggle to believe you will breathe your next breath. You do not strain to believe the sun will rise tomorrow. These are not beliefs you defend. They are simply the unquestioned ground upon which you stand. This is the quality of assumption I am asking you to bring to the fact of your own abundance. Not a belief you must protect from doubt, argue for, or reinforce with daily struggle, but a ground so settled beneath you that the very idea of lack becomes as strange to you as the idea that the sun might forget to rise. This is not a distant achievement reserved for the spiritually advanced. It is available to you the instant you decide, truly decide, to stop giving your attention to any evidence that contradicts it. What you attend to, you empower. What you withdraw attention from, withers. Not because you fought it, but because nothing in consciousness can survive without the fuel of your attention. Starve the old state, not through resistance, but through simple neglect, the way a plant no longer watered simply, quietly, ceases to grow. I want you to understand something else, something tender and important. This is not about greed. This is not about grasping at money as though it were the highest good. Money is simply one expression, one particular shadow of a far deeper truth, that you are the operant power in your own life, that nothing external has ever truly governed your experience, that you have always, even in your darkest financial seasons, been standing at the control point of your own consciousness, though perhaps unaware that the controls were even there. To assume wealth is simply to practice, in a tangible and easily verified arena, the deeper truth that governs everything. Your relationships, your health, your sense of peace. Money is a wonderful teacher precisely because its results are so visible, so measurable, so quick to confirm or deny the state you have been secretly occupying. Master the assumption of abundance, and you will have mastered, in miniature, the entire art of conscious creation, an art that then extends effortlessly into every other room of your life. So release, now, whatever the old man was carrying. Release the story of the hard childhood, the missed opportunity, the industry that does not reward people like you, the family that never had money, the timing that was never right. These stories may have been true as descriptions of a state you once occupied, but they are not prophecies. They are not sentences handed down by some external judge. They are simply old furniture in a room you are free to leave. Leave it. Not with drama, not with resistance, but the way you leave a dream upon waking, simply recognizing that it is no longer the room you are in, and enter, instead, the state of the wish fulfilled, not someday, not when the evidence arrives, but now, this moment, as you sit or stand wherever you are. Feel it now. Let your shoulders drop the way they would if you knew, absolutely knew, that you would never again lie awake worrying about money.